Did you really think I'd start the video like that, especially in my post-production portfolio? Obviously I'm going to be editing stuff. Now, like many people, Disney's Hercules was one of my childhood favourites, along with Aladdin and Mulan. Typical boy Disney movies, I might add, but believe it or not, I'm a boy. Getting on to Hercules, there are some people out there who shan't be named that believe Hercules is, well, an alright movie, but not a good movie because it does not stick to the entire, and I mean entire, Greek mythology. Mythos, I don't know, I'm not a nerd. I mean, I am, but, you know, not a little Greek mythology nerd. Now, the problem with this is that, again, certain people, who shall remain nameless, like to shit on the movie. You know, to the point where, you know, some of us will be trying to get an education and learn, and all of a sudden you look over, and they've got a YouTube video up going through every inconsistency in the Hercules movie. Now, I can appreciate, you know, wanting to stick to the source material. In fact, I am a big comic book nerd. As a comic book fan, I like it when they take creative liberties. And you can kind of say that Greek mythology are old-style comic books. Now, stay with me here, I know that sounds quite weird, but when you think about it, is Hercules not just a comic book movie? You know, it's a story of a hero, you know, big and strong Hercules, and it follows his journey, you know, to becoming that hero, saving and getting the girl, you know, defeating the big bad, and being embraced by the public and all the other heroes or gods. Yeah, that's just a superhero movie. Person who shall not be named. And it kind of gets to the point where, why does it matter? You see, I will watch comic book movies all the time, because, again, little nerd. But it also comes to the point where, you know, I will see inconsistencies, whether it's in different adaptations, like how you've got Zack Snyder's and James Gunn's Superman. One of them isn't Superman. He might claim to be, and he might have been a brilliant actor, and I loved him, and he looked the role. But I'm sorry, Henry Cavill, you're not my Superman. Now, it gets to the point where we just got to ask, how faithful do you need to be to the source material? Like when it comes to, as I said, Zack Snyder versus James Gunn's Superman. James Gunn's Superman's up there. For me, he's my Superman. I grew up with the Snyderverse, or the DCEU. You know, it took the character of Superman, who is meant to be truth, justice, and the American way, a true embodiment of hope, and you took him and made him gritty. Now, obviously, we saw this thanks to, well, the Injustice games, but I grew up playing that game. Was I very good at it? Absolutely not. But, did I enjoy it? Yes. If I was playing against some sweating online ranked, did I enjoy it? Not really, but when I was playing the campaign, the story, oh, beautiful story. It was amazing. It took what we knew about Superman and just completely subverted that entire character. It, you know, really rolled with the whole one bad day like situation that every comic book fan, whether they admit it or not, loves. And that was such a massive thing for Superman because it took every about him and changed it. And then it didn't stop there, because Zack Snyder came along and made Man of Steel. A good movie, not a good Superman movie. It took away everything. He aura farmed, you know, when he's coming down and he's like destroying the whole metropolis trying to fight God. No, right? Because comparing that to James Gunn's Superman, 2025, what does he do? There's a giant kaiju on the loose. Look at him. He's massive. But what did James Gunn's Superman do? David Corenswet, the beautiful, beautiful man that you are. I'm not gay. He saved everyone. Thing was going down. He saved even a a little tree rat. And that just felt like Superman because he doesn't just value human life, he values all life. It really just showed who Superman was, albeit this scene in particularly him saving the squirrel, didn't resonate well with test audiences who weren't removed, but James Gunn stood his ground. He knew the character, he had done his research, and he made sure that scene stayed in the movie. Now, they are very different iterations of Superman. You have the dark and brooding, almost Batman-like level of, like, you know, cold and miserableness. And then you have David Corenswet. And he really knows what he's doing as Superman. Now, when it comes, obviously we have two very different adaptations of Superman, but they're still both Superman. It doesn't matter, one has Pa Kent, John, dying at the start, so, he can aura from like, no, don't save me, my superpowered son. And on the other hand, you have the lovely Pa Kent, Mersh, as they called him. That's a really bad southern US accent. I tried. Again, obviously you get those very different dynamics for the way of Superman's character. Okay, yeah, it does maybe justify why Superman in Man of Steel is a bit more dark and brooding. But at the end of the day, they're both still Superman, whether it's an accurate adaptation or Man of Steel. They're still both very, very good. But one's not a good Superman. Sorry, Snyder. Then we get to Greek mythology. Now, obviously, the biggest complaint I've always heard is, actually, it's not Hercules, it's Heracles. Yeah, who cares? It's a name, right, one is vastly more popular than the other, and you can't even blame Disney for popularising it. It's been popular for a long, long time, so who cares, right? And obviously it changes Hercules' origin story, rather than being a bastard demigod son of Zeus, and I don't know who, because it doesn't matter to me. Cough, cough, you. Again, still not naming you, but you know who you are, right? It's just an adaptation, okay? It takes inspiration from the source material and makes it its own thing. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, if they want to have a bit of creative freedom, make Hera his mother along with Zeus, then why shouldn't they? At the end of the day, it's an adaptation. If Zeus wants to get freaky with a goat, does he do that? Probably. He's a bit of a weird horn dog. Then let him. Or if he wants to, in a movie made for children, may I remind you, have a child with another god, then who cares? This person cares. But I don't. And whether it is just my bias of always loving this movie growing up and the absolute best Disney princess, who technically isn't a princess, but she's still the best Disney princess, Meg, or Megara. Her song carried that movie. The whole thing was good. The music's amazing. Zero Hero, loved it. One Last Hope, Danny DeVito, brilliant. Okay, I loved every song in this movie, I'm not gonna lie. But Megara was the best Disney princess, along with Mulan and Jasmine, because she had a tiger, and I love tigers. I could really, really love tigers. They're just so cool. Anyway, not the point of getting sidetracked. It doesn't really matter. Now, it really stands to reason. Yes, this is a rubber chicken. Sorry. It really does stand to reason that comic book fans are more normal and, less arseholey. No offence, you. But, where was I going with that? Gee Willikins. We're leaving it in, though. It really does stand to show that the bigger arseholes of the two fandoms are the Greek mythology fans. Sure, you'll get a lot of complaints when a trailer for a movie comes out and a suit doesn't look right, or, oh, why didn't Pedro Pascal shave his moustache for Mr. Fantastic? No one cares, it's Pedro Pascal, he's gonna do what he wants, he's bloody everywhere. But at the end of the day, it's an adaptation, right? Greek mythology fans, since knowing a few, I hear more of them complaining about Hercules not being accurate than I do comic book movies and comic book movie fans complaining about them. Now, obviously, I know more comic book movie fans, so I'm just doing more of a ratio. I'll watch a new Spider-Man trailer, Brand New Day. Looks great, by the way. Good job, Sony. Keep it up. If you don't, I'll be upset. But it really does just, make them seem like pricks. No offence. I love this person. They're alright. But you need to rein it in with the Greek mythology, alright? It's just, they're not going to sleep with you. They're dead. But, at the end of the day, it's a fan base. The same way that I love comic book movies, people love Greek mythology. And they're enamoured by it. And rightly so, it's very interesting. Again, I'd even say that Greek mythology was the original comic books. Or, because it just is. You know, it's superheroes, bring them together. Like I said at the start of this video, check it out if you haven't watched it already, because I'd be very upset if you skipped all the way to the end just to hear my closing arguments. So if you've done that, I have a very special set of skills. Specifically, I can't pronounce my S's. Looking again at the comparison between Greek mythology and comic books, it's very similar, right? How many origins do we have for all the different Robins, for all the different Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse? Different adaptations, like Spider-Man, specifically like the Ultimate Universe, the main universe, other universes that aren't popping into mind, but I know they're a thing. That just makes me look like a fake fan. Quite embarrassing. But I am a fan, but more so of DC, which is why I really love Superman. Anyway, how many different adaptations do we get? And, you know, origins of different characters. Batman, for example, one of his key origin stories, or key factors of his origin story, is that his parents were shot dead in Crime Alley. Everyone's like, oh, you can't take that away from Batman, and he won't still be Batman. But you can, and it still works. In the Absolute comics, Batman's mother is very much alive. You know, his whole origin story changed. He's not even a rich billionaire genius playboy that I'm just describing Tony Stark. Basically the same thing as their human selves, their alter egos. Probably upset a lot of people with that one. Anyway, it doesn't matter, right? Because as long as the character stays true to the character, again, noting back to Zack Snyder, Henry Cavill's Superman not quite being Superman, but he's still a good character, just not Superman. It's enjoyable. And at the end of the day, there are hundreds, probably thousands, and different versions of these myths that have been passed down through word of mouth. Now, obviously, some are written down, some are even plays, but at the end of the day, it is just different adaptations, and people are able to take that and run with it. It shouldn't matter that it's not perfectly accurate. Sure, will I complain after watching an inaccurate movie that it wasn't quite like the comics? I'm not going to complain. I'm going to appreciate the art for what it is. And then you get the mythology fans. You get them indeed. No. Hera's not his mother. She drove him into a homicidal, murderous, violent rage once. And she tried to have him killed as well, because he was the bastard child of youth, whom she loved. Okay, it's a different adaptation. Spider-Man, in the Homecoming, the entire MCU Spider-Man. Where's Uncle Ben? He's referenced, but he's not there. Do you see me crying? No. Would I have liked him to be there? Maybe. In the early days of Spider-Man in the MCU, did I kind of want it to be Tobey Maguire to be a cool little throwaway cameo? Yes. Do I stand by that now? Probably not so much. It'll feel a bit cheap. But the whole point is that it's an adaptation. You know, keeping the character the same, keeping his ideology the same. You know, the whole great power comes great responsibility. An iconic line and a key part of Peter's character. Instead by Aunt May in this universe on her deathbed, or death floor, I guess. Death floor of a lobby of an apartment building. Yeah, right. But that sticks with him. You know, in fact, it's him using that when meeting the other two Spider-Men that he connects with them. It shows that, yeah, they're different, but they're the same person. So at the end of the day, you need to shut up, Greek mythology, little nerds. So at the end of the day, whether you like the movie or whether you say you like the movie, then go on to pick out every inconsistency and inaccuracy that doesn't line up with the mythology. It's a good movie, and I don't think anyone will convince me otherwise. This person's tried. Oh, you know the mythology is not accurate. I know it isn't accurate, but I like it anyway. So, more of the story. Hercules is good. I'm always right. It's just an adaptation. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Disney were just trying to make a bit of money, and they did. Look at that. At the end of the day, who cares?